Hey everyone, how are you? How are you? Welcome. Welcome to the Stoa. Thank you for following your curiosity to an invitation to a conversation about pussy magic. Who knows what pussy magic is? We gave you a pretty open invitation, and to those of you who said yes or what or okay, thank you for being here. Today, you can call me Elizabeth. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my dear friend, teacher, collaborator, soul sister of sorts and sensations, the pussy magic priestess who will make you feel the earth move, Gaea Lady. Gaea Lady is an internationally renowned burlesque performer and also a dear friend of mine. And we're here to talk about pussy magic. The way we're going to structure this is you'll hear Gaea and I have conversation. We have many years of experiences to draw on, and full disclosure, I am presently in the throes of Gia's pussy magic program, this transformational container where her practices have come into play to hold a whole community. Oh, look at yes, and we are doing our burlesque showcase is coming up next weekend. Yeah, so this is not intended explicitly as a promotional event. We're just at the phase in our co-creation where we really want to talk about it all the time. So Gaea, would you like to unmute and tap into?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so glad you all showed up for this weird, wild, and wonderful thing called pussy magic, which I know is kind of a word a lot of people are like, oh, intrigued or scared. So I'm really glad you showed up today. Thanks for being here. And Elizabeth, where should we go from here?
I'm presently experiencing so much excitement to get to talk about this philosophy of pussy magic, like the ideas behind it. And so I'd really love for our conversation to grow from this kind of structure, right? Like I want to know about you and how you came to pussy magic and how you came to calling pussy magic. I want to hear about, like, I want to share, actually, not just hear about, but like share about the transformations we've witnessed in the container of the burlesque program. And I want to talk about pussy magic as an energy in the world at large and have conversations with people here in the room about what that evokes. Like, what does that concept evoke? What are bodily reactions we have to the notions of magic, to the notions of pussy magic, and our embodied selves as erotic living art. And I know that's a lot of time to get to in an hour. But Gaea, tell me, like I've one of the reasons I'm really excited to like come to the Stoa with this concept is because you and I have known each other for a very long time. And so I've gotten to see these transformational stages of your living alchemy as an artist. I really want to know in your words, like kind of that growth arc.
And that is a funny growth arc to witness and to even describe, because as with most natural arcs, as I feel like I've really become myself and become the deepest, best, most potent, alive versions of myself, it's a culmination of every little thing along the way that really brings oneself into this current, like becoming this current self. So to pick out a couple moments, I would say when I first started fire spinning that was a big moment where I realized my power. I've been dancing and using my body and recognizing that getting into the body and out of the mind is a really important practice. I love philosophy. This is why Elizabeth Devour and I are such good friends, I think. But I love to read philosophy and like think about the ways the world can be um, divulged and turn upon itself and like reconstructed in our mental constructs. But I've always found that if I get too far into my head and out of my body, then things become one-sided. And so I realized, perhaps even farther back than fire spinning, is when I stopped dancing completely when I was in art school at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, where I hold a degree in fiber and material studies. But I stopped dancing completely and I felt like I lost a part of my soul. I was so far in my head that I was like thinking and writing discourses and papers and making really conceptual art, but I wasn't expressing through my body. So my best friend brought me to a belly dance class and I started to shed the ballet, the jazz, the tap, the structured movement, which I think a lot of forms tend to take when we learn them. And the belly dance was so earthy and down, and it really made me feel, I'm a mover, right? But it really made me feel my hips and how to move my spine to unlock the energies and the traumas and the everything that are living in my body, and started to transmute those. That went in tandem with a really big bout of suicidal depression that I had. That was a rough one. And I really think that belly dance helped me get through that. And I'm wrapping it all into pussy magic soon, I promise. um, but it is all pussy magic, right? The pussy magic is this energetic feminine, the yin, the shakti, the movement, the chaos, the expansion, the life that lives in ourselves and pulsates through the universe within the structure, the masculine, the young, the directive forces, right? So this magic that inhabits and animates everything is what I really started to get into and learn about in my body, outside of my mind, in belly dance. And so then fire spinning, I saw one of you be like, oh, hi, Kevin, fire spinning? Yeah. After I graduated school, went on this backpacking on a shoestring trip to places that a 22-year-old female probably shouldn't go alone. I came back and dove into the Burning Man community and started fire spinning and started to realize what it was to dance with the elements and get out of my own way and really surrender to something that was bigger than myself, which is why I think I still dance. Because when I move, especially with fire or the silks or with an audience, I realize it's not just me. And that is a really big part of pussy magic, is that it's communal. It belongs to all of us, and it's this palpable energy that's running through. So that was a big realization with the fire. And then a few years down the road, one of my producers was like, you should do burlesque. And I was like, I don't do burlesque at all. And she's like, why don't you just try? There's a big competition coming up. And I was like, okay, sure. So I put together some acts and tried it. And I loved how it was one more layer for myself to reveal, to stand bare in front of an audience and have this conversation about who I was as I was discovering that. And that, I think, was like another like level of pussy magic, as it is in the burlesque sense today, where I felt that this was important. I knew that this was big, but I had no idea why. And the thing about the energetic feminine and pussy magic is that we don't understand it. We can't logic it. There's no logos attached to it. It is the energy of Eros that is, of course, balanced in harmony with the logic. But when we really listen to it, it's inexplicable, and we have to listen to these pullings that we have from our soul and our life that tell us so much of where to go. And oftentimes it's hard to listen to that because it's discounted. And for me, it was discounted a lot because you can't explain it. You can't tell people why it matters. But I listened to it and kept going at it. And I feel like the most recent, perhaps, like stepping into pussy magic and who I am today is as a teacher and a facilitator, as a mentor, and as a guide through pussy magic. So I am a professional burlesque and fire dancer, and I perform throughout the city. I sometimes have up to like 15 stage appearances in a week. It's a little crazy. And I travel around the world and share this, so I've been performing for audiences, and during the pandemic I really stepped into teaching online, and I decided to host a program. My dear friend and mentor Sophia Tom does an online program called Temple Body Arts that I've helped her with for years, and she really encouraged me to hold a container, to hold a community, to explore this pussy magic and not just do one-off classes, 1-hour drop-ins, but to really hold a container where we can explore what pussy magic is together. And that happened for the first time in 2021. And it's happening again right now, as you all heard. And so who I am today is this vessel that has trusted the path of pussy magic so much. And believe me, there's a lot of spreadsheets attached to it too. But there's this expansion and this ripple effect that's happening now, which I think is a really important stage of the pussy magic. So spread sheets. Yes.
Spread sheets. Yeah. Microsoft Excel. Yes.
Shimmy the data in place.
It's iterative, right? It's cyclical. It's so exciting to hear these, like, I just kept trusting, I just kept going into these layers, because especially in a product-oriented world or a productivity-oriented world or a logos-oriented world, right? These structures are reinforced in terms of the bias towards what we think about. We're not, I'm putting broad blanket statements here, but like, I love that you said it was this trust element, because the journey to get the capital U us into its senses and the spaces where pleasure and capacity and faith in that bigger commingling happens on a sensual and real level. That's what I heard from a lot of these cycles of creative exploration. And now that pussy magic, now, because so like last year is when you led the first program, right? Like in the thick of all of our pandemic feelings, finding out a number of these things, right? This book even didn't exist in the last iteration. This is a sophomore offering where like this is a bunch of like practices that you've gathered along the way and shared, right? Because people go into these things thinking, oh, I want a solution to this thing. And you're like, well, the solution is doing the practices, right? I don't have solutions. I only have practices to reinforce this faith and energy.
And speaking of the Pussy Magic Guidebook, I want a big shout out to Manatron 5000, who is my editor and layout operator.
Who I believe is in this room. Is that true? We have a Manatron 5000. Yeah, like
in the room.
In the room. In the room. Amazing. It's very exciting to like recognize the collaborative and community effort of it, right? Like these things get co-birthed, and I think an erotic oriented life is coordinated among people learning how to practice trusting that, that was a bit abstract. Let me pull it back
I
and
love the
say,
abstract, but
yeah. It's
it's
just, it's,
I think it folds back, if I might, it folds back into the fact that this is a community endeavor, that it's not me holding the pussy magic, right? It's that we amplify the pussy magic, or just in general, the change that we wish to see in the world, when we release it and recognize that we are mirrors for each other and mirrors for everything in the universe, and that we're not separate. And that goes very far beyond pussy magic. It could be applicable to most philosophies that are not called capitalism or colonialism or patriarchy.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Hmm.
So as this is one of the other things I think has been really beautiful, is the number of the people who went through it last year are, this community echoes. It becomes very fractal, that we flow together in these things. But you obviously get to say the words pussy magic over and over again in your life. You're consistently meeting new people, right? Like, when people come to you with their responses to what they think pussy magic is, what does that teach you about its place in people's practices?
That is an excellent question. Um, I tend to, right, there's almost like 3 different buckets we can put them in, and these buckets are all connected, right? There's a giant circular trough, and there's 3 different spaces we can like start to throw these responses. And the first one is, oh yeah, absolutely, pussy magic, totally. This is the way of the world, truth. And I'm just like, oh, okay, right? And it isn't even very much about it, but there's this affirmation of the acknowledgement of the feminine spectrum, which is not necessarily how I grew up or how I was taught. Then there's the people who are like, I don't even know what that means. They're what? Did you just say pussy and magic? Are you a cult? And so then that is this thing that teaches me that there is just not any information out there about pussy magic in general. There's not that education, or people aren't talking about it in certain circles. And then there's the last area of the circular trough that's all connected, which is, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you just said that. I'm walking away from you right now. And then that is this adverse reaction, which shows that we have been enculturated so deeply to shut off from a certain word and a certain concept because it has been vilified so deeply. And with that, it shows that the feminine, the sex work, the erotic has been divorced from healing, has been divorced from acceptance, and has been really divorced from culture at a large scale. And when I say erotic, I mean the depth of feeling. I don't mean like, okay, yeah, everyone touch your nipples right now. I mean the erotic as it's palpable to touch the air and feel alive. And that has been so divorced from the world where many humans tune out in their day job, learn what they have to, and just repeat it to get a paycheck, to buy a television or a tablet, and to stop feeling as much as they can. And so then, right, we have these spectrums, and people's response to pussy magic, as I wear it on my necklace, as we all do in the Pussy Magic program, really shows how you can inform the conversation, I think, and also just the broad spectrum of the bubble that you're in currently, about how people are aware or not.
Yeah. There's I sent you a picture of this book just earlier because I just started reading this. I'm like 25 pages in. It's this book called Why Good Sex Matters, by Nan Wise, PhD. And she gets into pleasure and people's suffering because of this disconnection and because of this societally reinforced severance between the sensual body, this, sexual pleasure, but more so sex as an outlet for pleasure and pleasure as an essential like aspect of how we regulate our emotional and physical health to experience the happiness that's possible, which can sound like very like reward oriented things, but I'm really excited to read this book and get into like the neuroscience of what pleasure actually like means for the transcendent aspects of ourselves, right? Like, because we do have those, for a long time, I'm going to pull in what you had said earlier about performing on stage, like revealing yourself to yourself and the audience and having this conversation about your healing in that real time. That expression of we all have this heroic journey back to a sense of safety, security, and pleasure and possibility and participation in the erotic experience of life. But there's a lot of methods to get back there. And I saw this, Pussy Magic, the innate embodied wisdom of feminine sensuality. Say more, Gaea, or say more, Dragon. Did you want to express some more things about this question?
Not exactly. I think I was just trying to get clear on how I can boil it down so I can understand for myself.
Sure. What's a good distillation, Gaea?
Oh gosh. And so this is the funny part, right? When we try to distill and pinpoint pussy magic with earth words and these abstract sounds that we have created to mean certain things, then we don't actually understand the pussy magic. Right. And yes, your definition is great. And this has been my, in writing this guidebook, this has been my mission to try to find the practices and the words that do describe it. I would also add to that it is the understanding of your capacity to create, because our pussy is the place of creation, right? And physically in the human body, right? It's the place that we create life from. This is where we have our monthly cycle. This is where, in a femme-bodied with ovaries, right, we have eggs, we have the whole system to nourish an entire new life. And so whether or not you want to have another baby or a baby, which is not my path, I find that this space is the place to create from. So this is where I create my art, I create my pleasure, I create my practices, I create my experiences and my life. And so that, Mr. Dingle, absolutely, it is the same. And I don't want to really, okay, another important thing that Colty and I both share very strongly is that pussy magic is not exclusive to gender. Okay, it's not exclusive to what parts you have or how you express. So the energetic feminine exists within all of us, and we are truly all a blend of the different energetic qualities, right? We oftentimes call them masculine and feminine, but it can also be solar and lunar, yin or yang, Shiva or Shakti, right? Depending on what culture you're from and how you describe them. And so we're all a blend of these. And so those of you with your parts on the outside, you have pussy magic just the same as the rest of us, right? I have a balance of both energies, and I am only healthy, balanced, clear, and able to truly create when I merge those two together. So pussy magic is the other half that needs to be interwoven with, I still can't come up, like with the dick sorcery, I don't know. right? That really brings these two together, and they can't exist outside of each other. And one of the reasons I focus on pussy magic is because in this patriarchal world that is so logos oriented, that is so like strict and like analytical, it's forgotten about the necessity of the chaos, of the dreaming, of the intuition, of the feminine. And we need to lift that pussy magic aspect up within our psyches and our collective cultures in order to bring them both into balance, if that makes sense. I'm just looking at the chat right now. Come sorcery. Yeah, but isn't come sorcery just right? Because the pussy can come as well.
I like the like come as in like come together, communion.
That's it.
You know, this
Yep.
union, right? This unified relationship. And unified relationships can have power fluctuations and presence fluctuations, but the unified relationship of this masculine, feminine has a lot of healing and a lot of like unwounding and relearning and recalibrating. So, you know, if people sometimes want to come in on this logos level of opposites, right? This notion of like, oh, the feminine rising means the masculine squandering, you know, and it's you have to have a sense of humor about it, but you also have to be aware that that is a reinforcement of that patriarchal mistrust to say, well, this co-creation, you know, is somehow more a feminine aspect or more a masculine aspect, and that relationship and dance and balance, I feel is truly about what like pussy magic is and can be and in this potential. And it's very interesting to attempt to do this in a Zoom way, which is a distinct relationship to how we relate to our bodies, and there's new binaries there. But I want to name three things. One, some of my initial reluctance around the notion of pussy magic related to gender, which I'm super happy to have practices and processes to have worked through. But I know that I also had those, like, you know, I was in that part of the cycle of like, what? Also, if I claim pussy magic, but also understand myself through a non-binary lens, am I going to, how do I embrace the non-binary both and or other? And I know that Rosa had something to say on creating life, and Stoic Daddy has these, you know, some interesting notions related to the binary and or, you know, where masculine and stuff comes in. So I don't know who would like to go first. Rosa, I had seen your image first.
Go for it, Stoic Daddy. I'll follow you.
Thanks, Rosa. It pings nicely off what was just spoken about. Yeah. First, I want to kind of like circle back to what Rebecca said, because there's like when I hear the word like pussy magic, I was telling Colty that I just love saying it. You know, just like it excites my body, and like pussy magic's coming up at the Stoa. And there's a part of me like conceptually wants to understand it. Like, what is it though? But I kind of intuitively just feel it in my body, and so there's like kind of that. I just want to honor that kind of like that tension. And I think I had like reflecting on my sort of pussy magic moment in the past, and maybe it is not, but I'll share it, see if it lands. When I was younger, when I felt sort of erotic eros energy, especially coming from someone I was attracted to, there was like a binary response that emerged: time to fuck, or like time to repress the fuck energy. And it was sort of like there was no other option in between. And in a way, it was sort of like a kind of a method, an unconscious method of like control, of the controlling this energy. And then there's a moment that shifted. Is like, oh, I can have a non-binary response to this energy. And it just like, it's wilder, but it just opens up the option space. And it was like, it's actually like a visceral like skill to receive that energy. Stop, like, don't judge it, don't indulge in it or whatever, just be with it and see what emerges. And I'm not saying I'm super sophisticated at it, but that felt like kind of like, you know, a move that happened. Yeah, I'll have other questions about like how to practice this, how to like receive it, cultivate it, but I'll just pause there with that share.
I mean, now might be a great moment for a practice. What do you think? Yeah. Okay. So as Colty, Elizabeth Devour recently said, right, and as you just said about this feeling embodied, right, and being able to witness it. Thank you, Stoic Daddy. Also, it's great to say thank you, Daddy, with this. So wherever you are, if you're listening, if you're able, right, to feel the tips of your fingertips right now. Okay, so either rub your fingertips on each other, rub your fingertips on skin somewhere. You can close your eyes. Nobody's looking at you, right? And fully bring your attention to the tips of your fingers and the sensations that happen both from your fingertips onto skin and your skin onto the fingertips. So there's this dual haptic sensation going on where you're feeling both on your skin and through your fingertips. And without judging this or trying to understand it, I invite you to surrender to this feeling, to this feedback from your body to your body. And to notice whatever comes up, right? Maybe take your hands to a tender inner arm or your neck or your eyelids or anywhere else, especially if your camera is off. You do you. And to take 3 really deep breaths here and focus on relaxing your jaw, relaxing your hips, really relaxing inside your hips. Imagine your bones melting open. And as you exhale last, come to stillness and place your hands upward so your fingertips aren't touching anything. If any words come to your head, just try to dissolve them like a cloud. And just sit with your body and the sensations you experience right now. For 2 more breaths. And slowly flutter your eyes open if they have closed. Maybe wiggle your fingers. Maybe shim your rib cage, this breath box, side to side. And I invite you, if you feel like it, to notice any words that come up that signify what you're feeling. And you can share it in the chat box as a reflection. A little quickie exercise to get us into our bliss bodies, perhaps. Sensefulness. Yes, Stoic Daddy. Sensual yin, thank you. Elizabeth, delight, self-desire, appreciation. Dragon mushroom, focusing in on subtle sensations felt. Overwhelming. Very, very potent. Thank you for sharing. David, care, nurture, joy, love for the world, and sensual.
There's so much to the interiority of all of us, right? And this skillfulness in all that potency, right? In touching on all that potency. Like, it is pretty wild how something as simple as self-touch with intention and slowness and breath puts the palpableness of things there. And I want to be cautious to not necessarily equate sensation with pleasure or pleasure with goodness. But I do believe there is a physiological and spiritual reason for that capacity for sensation that is generally underexplored and pretty amazing. I loved what you said. You put yourself in your hands or something. You described it that way that I was just like, oh, yeah. There's something to that electricity. I'm really curious if anyone else would like to vocalize any of their experiences with the pussy magic spell. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was delighted by this invitation. Been processing an unexpected separation in a long-term marriage, and one of my so this is going to sound weird, but I've been like, okay, so where am I with self-pleasuring now that I don't have a partner? And at some point it was like, I realized, wait a second, what I most need right now is to be able to touch myself. Like, forget for a moment the sexual aspect, but just like, I want to be held. And how often do we hear that, young girls end up having sex too soon because what they really want is to be held, and the only way you can be held is to fuck some dude or whatever. And it's like whoa, what my body really wants is to have my hand holding myself here on my heart. And I realized that I had to work through some little taboos around it, because even though it's not sexual, it was like, well, am I just being weird because I'm holding myself, because I'm caressing myself, because I'm touching myself? And it's just been this, in the last 2 months, it's been this amazing source of comfort, and it just feels taboo breaking, right? Like we're not taught that we can give, or sometimes people say, oh, give yourself a hug or give yourself a pat on the back, but it's like this quick thing that you just do it, but like to linger in it and to really breathe into it. I've just been blown away. So thank you for sharing this now.
Thank you, Rosa. If I might reflect back to you, I see you breaking through those taboos of loving the self within this culture where we're taught that we need to receive happiness and pleasure from the other, from the outside. And so I see you breaking through these really deep boundaries of self-touch, and I really honor that. Thanks. And Dragon Mushroom, you have your hand up.
My experience of the exercise was that focusing in on one subtle sensation pulled me deeply into the presence of that subtlety, which felt a little bit overwhelming. And I found myself searching for something else to focus on because of how, I don't know, I don't really understand why, but it felt really hard to just stay with that one subtle sensation for me. And since I have the mic, I want to drop something into the conversation, which is that I really love to dance, and I like to post videos of myself dancing on social media, and I really shy away from allowing my sensual energy to come through and dance. I feel like I can tap into kind of two different, I can tap into the childlike energy or the feminine sensual energy. And I shy away from the feminine sensual because I have all these stories about that, if I put myself out into the world with that energy, it would be selling out or just like doing something that is just like about my body and not about who I am. And I know that those things aren't true at all, but it's a barrier that I find really hard to approach. Yeah.
Thank you for that really vulnerable and courageous share. I really appreciate you sharing that with all of us, because it doesn't always feel safe to go to these places. It doesn't feel safe to feel, because feeling has been weaponized against us in many circumstances. And we can really be put down or cut down, or there's the fear that that will happen, that we will be cut from the belonging within society or the hierarchies that we desire. And so I see that as completely valid. And I really hope that you can explore this more at your own pace, so it feels good for you. That is your pussy magic. And sometimes those little like, oh my gosh, that feels so overwhelming, that feels like so much, coupled with the urge to want to explore those more sensual aspects of the self, like that for me has been the biggest indicators that that's important. And so perhaps that's important for you too. So thanks. I hope you do it. Call me, send me a video, okay?
Yeah, I wanted, Margaret, is it all right if I make a bridge and then bridge to your share? Because I heard in both Rosa and Dragon, and I recognize in my own journey too, so many of those fears and blocks, and like they manifest in our bodies. Like the distance between my hand and my body can feel so overwhelming, right? Like what Rosa was saying about touch, just wanting touch, and to be a dancer and not touch one's body, because like to just cut off these whole arenas of movement because of that weaponization. This is why I feel it's deeply important to put this language to that resistance and practice of it, because the details are different, but we all have a very similar core story about this separation between ourselves and our sovereign right to touch ourselves and move ourselves. So I really want to speak to how in community, witnessing others come up against those infinite variety of pains and blockages and resistances has been really key and core to my healing as well. So on that note, thank you for your patience, Margaret. I would love to hear about your experience.
Actually, it was perfect, because what you said led right into what was coming up for me, is that when I go into that space, which does feel overwhelming, it almost feels it feels like I don't have permission to go there, because when I go there, I can't separate that from the feeling of Tao, from the feeling of the divine moving within me, from the messages that get channeled into me. It's and then that all gets caught up in the the programming, if you will. And I grew up Roman Catholic, so huge misogynistic, huge women don't own their power. Um, the only role models is Mother Mary the Virgin or Mary Magdalene the whore. And so the minute I go there, not only is the feelings that it feels so right, it's so true, it's so perfect, but all that programming that interrupts your sovereignty, that interrupts your pleasure, that interrupts. It's not just resistance. It's and maybe resistance is the feeling that comes along, but behind that is decades, centuries, and being of Irish descent. So all the women who were witches that were killed. My mom is super suspicious, and anything that might feel like witchery or magic or intuition is hardcore fear, and just it's it's buried in your DNA, it's in your bones, and overcoming that for me has been an incredible practice. It will be a lifelong practice, but just speaking into resistance and rightness, truth. And I don't have any answers. I'm just speaking into what I experience when I go there.
Thanks, Margaret. No answer is necessary. This is the conversation. And I believe that pussy magic is this place of not needing to understand it, but rather to feel it, right? It's this dance between the two. And yeah, when Colte, I don't know if you were here, but in class last night, we had our pussy magic class where we had a empowered presence 60-minute dance journey where we just dance and feel for a full hour, and then we process and journal. And we had a group chat kind of like this after we danced. And I asked some of my pussy magicians, which is what we call ourselves, what I should talk about in pussy magic, as how I should describe pussy magic to you all today. And my dear friend Ivy said, just tell them we're casting spells with our vaginas. And so it really brought to surface all the taboos that you speak of. And right, like it is that, and it's not that, and it is, because each of our words, each of our emotions, each of our thoughts and actions is weaving this collective magic, which is the force of our will coupled with the elements around us to create the world which we want to live in. So
I would also,
but thank you, Margaret, so much for weaving that piece in.
I'd like to co-weave on that bit too, because what people see on the burlesque layer is this like person who has gone through the process of their capacity to face the demons, the dramas, the conditioning, and the actual shadows within us, the actual sensations that come up when we sensualize into ourselves and recognize some of those senses are stories and pain and literally inherited aspects of how our bodies will process the energy of livingness. But these processes, this pussy magic process and processes, is really an umbrella term for what brings you into your body and your sensual awareness and your power therein, your power as an active co-participant in life, rather than someone whose stories are put upon, you know. It's very interesting to lean into a new name as well, right? Like people don't really know me as Elizabeth, but Elizabeth is a prism of my perspective. Elizabeth is a prism of this power and capacity to rewrite that relationship through trauma, pain, baggage, etc. I still come with it through my body, but I say this is the lens through which I will be experiencing and holding the container.
And it's so much more than just the body.
Yes. Yes. And it's so much more than just the body. And it's so much more than saying, okay, just try to feel good, or, oh, when you feel things, you know, you'll have restored faith in humanity, right? It's always a practice of coming back to it and acknowledging and feeling the pain, like, and getting processes and community through which you can hold the transitions of pain and growth. Yeah, it's a lot. I think we're tapping in. David, I'm curious about your experiences at the present moment.
I'm my experience right now is very appreciative of this courageous space you guys have created to talk about your experiences and be really honest and comfortable in yourselves, and modeling very powerful women. So it brings up lots and lots and lots and lots of triggers. And so I'm just, grateful to challenge myself to step forward and expose that I'm feeling a little fear, and feeling really grateful that your comfortableness with this subject, and just saying the word pussy magic. It's awesome. And I got a lot of work to do. I have been working on myself for a long time, and I'm inspired, and have been inspired mostly by women over the many years, because truths that I, as a man, haven't been able to have access to, or have other men to talk to about. So just thank you for triggering me today.
It's our pleasure. And in so much love. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. It's fascinating. I think it feels to me the best service my courage could offer is that capacity to come up against the growth edge of fear and see yourself reflected differently. I feel as though everyone who shared today had that opportunity. And I want to reiterate that this practice of slowing down and putting yourself in your fingertips and giving that haptic feedback to yourself, there is so much to reflect there. You will continuously come to what that reflects back at you, what your touch does to you. And I'd love to see more people co-developing skills in that regard, and co-developing the skills to not rely on the touch of others as a band-aid solution for the pleasure we don't allow ourselves to have in life. I know we are coming to the top of the hour, and that I could express myself about these kinds of things extensively. But just really wanted to say thank you to everyone who, again, said yes to the invitation. Oh, there's a person in the room whose name is Surrender to the Pussy, which I really appreciate. Any closing thoughts? Any ways we'd like to land this container? Gaea, I'd love for your guidance in how to.
Yeah, I want to kind of circle this into the burlesque spectrum really briefly, through the lens of witnessing. And when we get to witness each other in embodying this pussy magic, when we get to witness someone feeling themselves and feeling their body, right? Feeling whatever it is, even feeling fear or reservations. Whether you see a performer on stage, that's a really big part of my life. You're all welcome to come see me perform. I put out lots of them on the internet on my Patreon also. But when you can witness someone feeling their body, and you can see that as a mirror for yourself, especially when they are deeply in their pussy magic, that's really healing for you to witness as well. And my desire in this witnessing practice is to inspire, and to create that ripple effect, to have more people feel at home feeling things in their bodies, whatever that means. So the witnessing is important. It's a whole another layer of it to be witnessed within this. But I am here as a strange, sexy, naked beacon on fire for you to witness. Yeah, and if you want to follow up or see some more of my work, I put a lot of it up on Instagram. I do have a Patreon, and you can catch some things there. There's some free activations for you on that. You can find me almost everywhere as Gaea Lady without the exclamation mark, but there it is. Or I have some cool videos that you can witness me in the pussy magic situation on my website, which is GaeaLadyChicago.com. If you want to go check out any media, because there was no slideshow or anything today, which is even better. But there's lots more practices. So if this is intriguing, yeah, follow that. And I also just want to give a really big thank you to the Stoa for having me. I love what y'all are doing. I love the conversations you're having. I love the way that you look at the world and this invitation towards depth within being. So thank you so, so much.
Truly. Truly. All right. Stoic Daddy, any last words, or shall we just say farewell and go play in our pussy magic?
I don't want you guys to go.
Yes, I also just want to say I really love this. It's so much fun to see women just celebrating being woman, and like all the healing, all the hurt from the past, and it's just beautiful. Thank you for coming, and thank you Stoic Daddy for having them here.
My pleasure. Yeah, that was a really a great session, nourishing session, and just feeling the energy, in the field, the social field right now. It's like, I like this, I want more of this. Yeah, thank you for the session. And any final words, Elizabeth, you'd like to close us off with?
A lot of gratitude, a lot of gratitude. It was, it was my pussy that really said, hey, I think the Stoa is ready. And it's been a beautiful bridge of prisms and dimensions of my life to be able to be here with you all today. So thank you for embracing it. Go with ease, go with pleasure. I'm harder to find than Gaea Lady is, but don't take it personally. It's part of the mystery. Until we meet again, take care.